Hey, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Imperial Diecast. And today we're going to be taking a look at a real race car. This is the Mercedes AMG GT3 in 1/24 scale made by Motormax. So here's what the model looks like in its box, and you can see that this is a redesigned Motormax box because it has these yellow stripes, and they of course are there because the model itself has the yellow stripes. So I think that this box was designed with this model in mind. Now, moving to the side, you can see that we have a picture of the AMG GT3 on this box. And this is not a picture of the real car, but actually of the Motormax model, so it looks pretty realistic, doesn't it? And over here at the back, same deal. Another picture of the model rather than a picture of the real car, but it still looks very nice. And underneath, we just have some licensing information. And we also have a nice Daimler sticker with, I believe, 3 different cars on the sticker. It's pretty nice. Of course, the MB from Mercedes-Benz. Alright. In March 2015, Mercedes-AMG presented the race version of the AMG GT, which is the model that you're looking at here, the AMG GT3. Coming from the assembly plant in Sindelfingen, Germany, this car is equipped with the same Mercedes-Benz M159 engine as its predecessor, the SLS AMG GT3. And this engine is a naturally aspirated 6.3-liter V8 with close to 550 brake horsepower at 7,400 RPM and a top speed of around 332 kilometers per hour, which is a massive improvement over the road-going AMG GT's 307 kilometers per hour. The AMG GT3 does 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in about 3 seconds, which is also a massive improvement over the AMG GT's 3.8. Another improvement over the AMG GT comes in the form of weight reduction. This time, we have a lot of carbon fiber reinforced polymer to help bring the vehicle's weight down to under 1,300 kilograms so that it complies with the FIA regulations for racing. And this car did very well at the 24 Hours of Nürburgring. So the biggest compliment that I have for this model by Motormax is the authentic race livery. I mean, I think that they have nailed the shade of the gray perfectly, but also the AMG branding across the sunstripe, as well as the massive rear wing. And this color is called matte selenite gray, with yellow stripes running across the hood, the roof, and the doors. The same bright yellow is also used on the front canards, the side mirrors, the rear wing, and the tires for added contrast. This car cost me approximately 15 euros, and I bought it from the brick-and-mortar store called Drogeriemarkt Müller, where I have also bought a couple of other 1/24 scale cars that I've reviewed in the past. And the reason why I bought it was because Motormax is now bringing out this car in a matte black version. Or maybe it's gloss black, I'm not sure. But the point is that I felt like this particular race livery is going to get cycled out and replaced by the black version. So this is a practice that also Maisto has been doing with its cars. You know, first they bring out the car in certain colors, and then afterwards they bring out the black versions. And I'm not really a fan of the black versions because the cars, they lose a lot of their identity and their character when they're just, you know, become black. I prefer them in different colors. So that's the reason why I went out and bought this car. And they were having a sale, so there's that as well. So I'd say without any further ado, let's begin this car by taking a look at the front. And the thing that impresses me most about the front is this massive redesigned grille. Now, the original AMG GT had a different looking grille, which I think looked a little bit boring because it was pretty much the same grille as on the Mercedes A-Class or the Mercedes CLA. Whereas with this race version, they really redesigned the grille, and this grille is actually called the Panamericana grille. And Mercedes themselves were quite satisfied with the redesign of the grille, so they decided to also implement it onto the road-going versions of the facelifted AMG GT, which also includes the AMG GT3. So you got this huge Mercedes star in the middle. It looks great. Got a small Mercedes logo on top of it. And then you have these headlights, which I think are the worst part about this entire model because they lack any sort of depth whatsoever. What I like about the headlights is that they don't have any pegs, which is great for a 124 scale Motormax. And they do have a little bit of detail inside as well. And if you look at the headlight glass, you can also see that on top here, we have a little bit of a pattern as well. However, I think that these headlights could have really done with some black shading because the entire headlight is silver. So I wish I could just like remove this cover and then take a black marker and just help shade the headlight a little bit so that it would look so much better. But yeah. Anyway, moving to the rest of the front, you can also see that we have here a little compartment. I think this is where the tow hook would be, but I'm not sure. And down here we have a massive front splitter. And Motormax made sure to implement carbon fiber texturing on the front splitter as well. And you also got these fins over here, which help with the aerodynamics of the car. And now moving on to the hood. Now this hood is not, at least to me, it doesn't appear as huge as the hood of the SLS AMG. So it is smaller, but at the same time it's still very big. And you can see that Motormax, again, implemented the design elements of this hood pretty well. We've got this huge exhaust port for the radiator, because the air gets sucked into the front grille and then comes out of here, creating downforce. And we got these two vents here as well, and they also have a nice grille pattern on them. Over here in here we have side louvers. Now here at the top of the car, where you can also see the yellow strip running along the roof, you can also see this square here. And this is actually a driver escape hatch that has been built into the roof. So that's pretty unique. So here's a look at the car's side profile, and you can see this is the #1 car. I wonder how many they made in total, but yeah, there's that. You got a yellow stripe running along the side here as well. We got a little bit of carbon fiber going on here as well. And regarding the wheels, my second biggest complaint about this model is the way that Motormax did the brake disc. First of all, we don't have any brake calipers here. And the brake disc itself is pretty much attached to the rim. It's supposed to be a little further in, but they just slapped it onto the rim, so that's something that I don't like. However, at the same time, I feel like this is still better than having no brake discs at all, which is pretty much the industry standard for 124 scale Maestos. So at least compared to them, here we have something. And what I also like about these brake discs is that you can see the pattern on them regarding the slotting, and in the center of the rim, you can also see that they have put a little bit of detail as well. If you look at the tire walls, I do like the way these yellow lines go along with the rest of the aesthetics of the car. And over here we have the exhaust port at the side. And over there, another air intake. And now moving on to the back of the car, what you can see here is that, first of all, the taillights are done pretty fine. I mean, they do have a peg in the middle, but it is partially covered by the DRL strip, which is just painted onto the taillights. And these taillights are actually the same as on the AMG GT, so The GT3 variant did not redesign them a lot. I think that they look good. And I also like this pretty impressive rear diffuser. But perhaps what I like most about the back of the car is this massive spoiler, to the point where you can call it a rear wing. Motormax designed the elements holding the wing in place pretty well. The surface of the wing is made out of carbon fiber. And if you look at the sides of the wing, you can see that Motormax did properly paint these as well. You can see that it says AMG, and it's got the proper yellow trim to go along with it. You also got a little brake light over here, although it's barely painted red. You got the Mercedes star below it, and we have an AMG license plate over here as well. And to the left and right you can see more air vents, although they don't even have any kind of texturing, which is not that good. Now regarding the interior of the car, spoiler alert, everything is black. Okay, nothing is painted. However, what I did was I took this car apart and I decided to paint the interior myself, just to highlight how much detail Motormax has put into the interior, which would be invisible without the paint. So what I did was I painted the interior silver, just like on the real car. And here's a picture from the real car, and you can see that the car has the race spec steering wheel, complete with buttons and wires and everything. And the center console also has a few more switches. And now we're going to take a look at how Motormax implemented these. So looking at the passenger side of the interior, you can see how important it was to paint the interior in silver, because it makes the floor visible, and there's a lot of detail going on here. You can see so many bolts and other things on the floor. I believe this is some kind of electronics over here. And of course the paint also makes us aware that we have a roll cage that Motormax has done here. And you can also get a good look at the center console with all its dials. Another little detail is that if you look at the interior of the doors, Motormax has made sure that they have the AMG branding, so that's pretty nice. And now moving on to the driver's side, you can see that we have here an LCD display, which shows the driver all the race stats. And here's the race spec steering wheel that I was talking about earlier with all the buttons. You can see that it also has a Mercedes star in the middle. You can see the floor pedals down there. And regarding the steering wheel, unfortunately, the front wheels do not turn left or right, so the steering wheel also does not turn. And now if we look at the seat here, this is a single hard-shell carbon fiber bucket seat, just like on the real car. It's a single-seater. And I think you feel pretty safe inside this one when you're taking this car on tight curves at high speeds. And now looking at the bottom of the car, you can see that it's a very plain and flat undercarriage. However, all of it is kept in this sort of carbon fiber pattern. It's got a few scratches, unfortunately. I don't know how they happened, but over here it's just got some legal information, some licensing. Motormax used under license made in China. And up here it says scale 124. And over here you get a good look at the rear diffusers, and I think that these fins or blades, as you call them, look very impressive. So here's a look at the car with all the opening parts, and as you can see, unfortunately, just the doors open and the hood does not open and the trunk does not open. But before you criticize Motormax, let me tell you that the 1/18 scale version of this car, which is made by Auto Art and costs close to 200 euros compared to this 20 euro 124 scale Motormax, also only has opening doors. So I find that pretty amazing how Auto Art has stopped making opening trunks and hoods on some of their more recent line of cars, which also includes the Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo. But regarding the Auto Art Mercedes AMG GT3, I mean, here you have a 124 scale version of that car that just costs 15-16 euros, and you get pretty much the same treatment in terms of opening parts, in terms of overall look. I mean, of course, what you don't have here with the Motormax is you don't have good looking headlights, you don't have perforated grills and all that, and you don't have carpeting. But it just shows how much money you can save by not always going for the Auto Arts. But that's just my 2 cents. Guys, I hope you liked this review of the 124 scale Mercedes AMG GT3 by Motormax. And now that I have reviewed in the same scale both the SLR McLaren, the SLS AMG, and the AMG GT, in this case the AMG GT3, I'm going to do another video in the next week where I'm going to compare all 3 cars just to show you the current lineup. So stay tuned for that one, and I'll see you in that next video. This is Imperial Diecast, signing out.